What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today we're going to be talking about Naya of the Night Fae. With her last row, if you've been keeping up with your Renown, finally unlocked, we have 3 choices ahead of us. So, which one would be the best one for us sneaky boy rogues, as they all have pros and cons to them? Well, today's video should help explain that, so thanks for joining me, and let's begin. This video, like all my others, will be segmented out so you can peruse and refresh your memory at your leisure. If you have any further questions or comments though, feel free to ask me in the comment section of this video or swing by my community Discord to ask or just chit chat with myself and other members of the channel. The link for that will be in the description below. So, after months of being time-gated and clicking on the exact same 2 souls in the mall over and over for that one weekly quest, we're finally in the home stretch of Covenant Renown in terms of player power. We have a couple weeks left to fully complete every Soulbind tree, but for the Night Fae in particular, Naya right now will become the Golden Child, since she is the first Soulbind to reach her last row of abilities. And honestly, all of them are not bad by any means, though one will stand out in general from the other, at least for us rogues, and there will be one that does have some niche benefits. Okay, so if you want the short answer to this video with very limited explanation, Burrs is almost 100% guaranteed to be stronger than any other combination of choices you can pick, because I know someone is going to ask, so I'll just let you know now if you don't want to hear the reasoning behind it. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about each of Naya's final traits, and then we'll elaborate on this. They all start with the phrase Naya's tools, so instead of reiterating Naya's tools over and over, I'll just go by the type of each trait each one is. Burrs is a random proc chance damaging trap that is thrown beneath your current target. It procs on damaging spells and abilities, and works very similar to a hunter trap, meaning it takes about a second or 2 for the trap to activate, and the first enemy that steps in it will have their movement speed slowed by 20%, and it will deal nature damage over 6 seconds. Picking the Burrs will also give us an extra endurance conduit slot. Next we have Poison. This makes it so anytime we interrupt a spell cast with Kick, we apply a nature damage over time effect for 30 seconds. If we interrupt again while that debuff is active, we'll refresh the debuff and it deals an extra bit of nature damage. This choice allows us to use our second potency conduit of the Naya Soulbind tree. Lastly, we have Herbs. This makes it so our healing spells and abilities will have a chance to increase the target's haste by 5% for 10 seconds. This cannot re-trigger if the target already has the buff, and it's a 30% chance every time the target is healed for the buff to trigger in the first place. This gives us our extra finesse conduit. So each of these choices has pros and cons, but I'll start with personal experience as of now on these abilities after playing with them on the beta and all of today. Burrs is really freaking strong. There is a bit of a downside of losing a potency conduit when you take this, but on average, Burrs makes up about 5% of my overall damage, which is far greater than the second conduit of any of the rogue DPS conduits. For Outlaw, since we already run Count the Odds, we don't really need any of our other conduits, and similar results happen with Assassination and Subtlety both having one conduit that is slightly greater than the others. While rogues are pretty hardy in PvE content with our defensives like Cloak of Shadows, Vanish, Evasion, and Feint, an extra endurance conduit is a nice quality of life gain too. I personally have been enjoying running Cloaked in Shadows for Mythic Plus, due to be able to re-stealth between trash packs, whereas Nimble Fingers is better suited for raiding in comparison since you aren't exactly re-stealthing in the middle of a raid encounter. And for those who haven't noticed yet, when you want to trigger the Absorb Shield from Cloaked in Shadows with Vanish, you have to wait for 3 seconds after you trigger Vanish because you have that 3 seconds of true stealth where you don't get knocked out from taking damage or harmful effects. Yeah, that needs to fall off before you get the Absorb Shield, just as an FYI. However, there is a bit of a downside to Burrs. It works very much like a hunter trap, so it's thrown on the ground beneath your target, and the first enemy that steps in it is going to trigger it. It takes about a second or so for it to arm, and it expires after like 8 or so seconds. So if your target is moving a lot, it's possible the trap will miss them completely. And it's also possible that it will break any crowd control effects if the trap is thrown at an enemy you've blinded or got CC'd or something, so there are situations that can make this ability a bit of a hassle. Now, I'm sure a lot of folks have looked on sites like Hero Damage and seen that Naya's Poison trait sims nearly the same as Burrs in single target, and you get a potency conduit to boot, so it seems like the stronger choice due to those sims. However, in raiding in particular, there is very rarely anything you can interrupt, and this poison only triggers if you successfully interrupt a cast. Because of this, the sim is very skewed in terms of viability, as it expects you to be interrupting something literally every 30 seconds, which is very much not going to happen in Raid. In Mythic Plus, of course, it is a lot more common to be interrupting. However, the dot lasts 30 seconds, which is a pretty long time, so you most likely won't see the full benefit out of it either every time you proc it, and simming it for Mythic Plus doesn't seem possible at the moment from what I can tell, as every time I've tried to sim it, it just doesn't show up. For Patchwork, there is a casting Patchwork option which takes advantage of this trait, but in Dungeon Slice, this doesn't seem to be a thing yet. This really seems like a PvP-oriented choice, as it lets you interrupt and still deal damage to your foe. Due to this, I can't truly see recommending the poison effect outside of PvP situations, though like I said, it does have some small gains in Mythic Plus. If you are really partial to your second potency conduit slot, you will be taking a small DPS hit for using this in raids, and Burrs procs much more often than interrupts are available in Mythic Plus, so just keep that in mind. Lastly is Herbs. Herbs is the lowest simming of the three choices, but gives access to a third finesse conduit. I could see this maybe coming in handy, but honestly it isn't super great. I did come across a really strong interaction between Herbs and one of our conduits though, resulting in a really high uptime of the buff, like over 60%. Because if you're running the Recuperator Endurance conduit, every tick of the Recuperator heal has a 30% chance to proc the Herbs buff on yourself, though it can't reproc while the Herb Haste buff is already active. It makes it absurdly easy for you to keep this buff rolling on yourself, though it'd probably be something that your healer would be running so that way they can apply it to the whole group with their plethora of heals and heals over time if they're Night Fae. I will say as a heads up, most likely next week with that Renown cap reaching 32, Korayn will become the ultra primo choice for rogues in Mythic Plus, since we'll finally get access to the first strike talent. But for raiding in pure single target, Naya and Burrs are looking to be the best choice out there unless some last minute tuning or other annoying thing that Blizzard does happens. I guess we'll have to wait and see if this video ages like a fine wine, or like the textures on Burning Crusade tier sets. Only time will tell. I hope this video helped explain our most recent power increase that we'll be seeing from unlocking this last Soulbind trait row for Naya. I might do a similar video for Korayn next week since we'll be unlocking her final row with the most recent Renown updates. However, the Naya one made more sense to me to do a video on because all three of them technically are DPS gains, and I've seen a lot of people going back and forth on, especially Burrs versus Poison. So I hope this video helped explain the pros and cons to each trait choice. If this video was helpful to you then, please consider leaving a comment, a like, or sharing this video or any other ones that you like on the channel with other folks, as it's all immensely appreciated and helps a ton with the channel's growth. And as always, my gratitude to you, my viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons, who all help make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.